Welcome everybody to week 2 of our 8-week, yeah, that's right, 8-week web development for beginners course. Today we're going to cover JavaScript, data types, and functions. Two probably of the most important building blocks of building with JavaScript. So stay tuned after this short introduction. Welcome back, everyone. I'm super excited. Already seeing some activity in the chat. I did have a question for everyone. Where are you joining from? I see some debate around what time it is, so that's super helpful. And what's your experience with web development? So let's see. Got a few responses already, which is lies. I think that's Mai. Sorry for butchering name. Italy, which is 6 p.m. 6 p.m. here as well. I mean, I'm calling in Stockholm, so very much in the same time zone, but I'm sure we have some different ones. Josephine, welcome. 2 weeks ago, JavaScript. This is perfect. Perfect timing. We had a lot of relearners last time. So a lot of people who maybe have learned JavaScript before or maybe stopped a bit. This is what happens when you learn programming. It's a start and stop sometimes, even for the best of us. So happy to have all those people join as well. Hopefully this is the time when you stop starting and you go again. Let's see. Northern Virginia. Hi, Terraborn. A little bit of JS. Nice. That's good. This will be a lot of bit of JS coming to you. Echelon. Been studying casually for a few months. See, yeah, that seems to be the story of a lot of people. I think this kind of casually learning, going along. So this will be hopefully the time when you go from casual to like really learning JavaScript. That would be really good for me. All right, Mark, new to JavaScript as well. I love this one. We have everyone around the world, but it does mean a lot to me when at least there's one person from Stockholm joining. So hi, Christina. Thank you for being that Stockholmer joining us today. Cool. I see a lot of times, a lot of different areas, lots of good experience. Not as many rejoiners this time, so a lot of new people, which is even more exciting because we're going to cover a very important topic in JavaScript today, and that is data types and functions. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about this course a little bit. This is our second week, so let me know if you were here for week 1. I don't want to bore anyone on this stream that we're going to talk about the course again, but I imagine there's a few of you that this is the first week. So if you've been to week 1, let me know in the chat. I will at least hope one person was there last time. We're going to cover this week's topic, like what are we going to actually talk about, and then leave you with some next steps. And so we have. I'm going to share a lot of resources and links throughout this entire course. And I had put them all in one little repository here, which is, I'm just going to paste that in because I see some questions as well already about this as a resources. So you can see that if you go to that, I know it just says week 1. That's because I'm really lazy and I didn't change that. So this is going to be for week 1 and week 2 and till week 8, we're going to use the same link. So I'm going to put that's in the chat so you can see that. And that's going to answer one question already that I got from Anish. Can you please link to week 1? Anish, in that link is week 1's recording. So you can catch up. This is week 1. We really kind of worked on the setup, our development environment. So you don't need to like jump off of this immediately if you haven't joined week 1. You can always go back and check that out. But I see there was a few people. Charlie White was here. Dibka, week 1 returner. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and then we got a few first week, Pedro. But Steve, yes, Steve, you're going to come up on this, Steve, by the way, coming up. You've done some really great work I've already seen. So cool. This for the new joiners then, but anyone who's sort of forgotten about this course, this is going to be a very JavaScript focused course in terms of web development. I am a big fan of making things work before we make them pretty. So we're going to do a lot of JavaScript. So if you look from week 2 to week 7, it's going to be JavaScript to React essentially, and we're going to be using React primarily in this course. And then in week 8, we're going to focus on making things look good. We're going to do some Tailwind CSS, some HTML, some stuff as well. But within React, we're going to also learn a bit of HTML, but in the ideas of working with React. So this won't be. We're going to build some beautiful site every week, and you can show it to all your friends. But this is going to be really on getting good at JavaScript and then making it look really good. So if that's something that you're about, if that's something you like, this course is for you. We're going to do that in a couple ways. So we're going to do continued learning. So in that link, I'm going to put that link up again. You will see that we'll probably have about an hour together every week, but I can't cover everything. So it's always good to get a refresher. We have these modules or training called Microsoft Learn, completely free. You'll see the links for each of those weeks on that as well, on that main link repository. Click on it and you just get it makes what we talk about here a bit more real because you're going to be working on it on your side as well. I mean, you could kind of code along with me as well, but that's another way to help out with your learning so you can upgrade yourself. We're going to build together. So I have put this like learners matchmakers together, and a few of you have already posted, so it's super nice. The link is also going to be in there, but I'm going to give a shout out, Mohammed, if you're here. Posted a few days ago. Victor as well, and Vishal was yesterday. We're currently working with JavaScript and React Native. So this is not for me just to get a whole bunch of Twitter friends or LinkedIn friends. I have enough. But this is for you to find people maybe that are in your area who are also learning JavaScript and React. So I try to make sure that you have like your level, and don't be afraid that someone's intermediate, I'm beginner, because actually for intermediate people, working with beginners is a great way to make sure that you know what you're talking about. And for beginners, intermediate people are great to learn from. So don't worry, don't stress about this too much. But the area, and it's a good contact detail. So that link is going to be in there as well. It's the matchmakers. I'm going to try to connect people. I've done that as well. Like, oh, you're in the same area, you should probably contact them. But hey, feel free to add those people when you see them. Next thing we're going to do is actually sort of compete together, if you will. So each week we have these learn modules. You could take your time, work at your own pace as far as how quickly you want to do that. You could do each one every week. But I have collected all 8 of the basically lessons that we have already posted in this Cloud Skills Challenge. And this Cloud Skills Challenge is essentially allows you to kind of compete against each other, or at least compete against yourself of how fast you can go through this 8-week course. And I thought, most people will take the time to, go through that each week by week, which I think is completely fine. But I had a few people that decided to do all 8 or almost all 8 pretty quickly, which is pretty impressive here. So Steve, I know I saw you in the chat. These are your usernames. I'm not trying to put people's identities out here, but these are usernames. So Shanka, 100% already. So week 1, they've completed all of the 8-week modules, and Steve as well, all 8 of them. So maybe I made it too easy, I don't know, but a lot of you started, which is really great to see. Some of you haven't started yet. You signed up, haven't started, and a few of you kind of get along in there. So I think if you do one, it's like around 20%. So really cool to see people kind of go on as they do. And I'm going to keep updating this leaderboard. I probably won't have everyone, but it's cool to see how many people have already made it through this. Cool. So that's enough about the course. Let's actually get into the course, right? So we're going to cover 2 things: variables, data types, how they relate, and functions. This is a very, very critical for working with JavaScript, and hopefully for everyone at different levels here, they'll have something to learn through this, because some of this is basic. Maybe you've done other programming and you know what variables are, but some of the things you can do in JavaScript is quite different to what you do with other programming languages. JavaScript is kind of a unique character in the programming world, and functions as well as almost in any programming language, but how JavaScript handles them and how you write them could be different. Cool. But let me just check in the chat. So beautiful day to everyone in Nigeria, Delta State. I say that every day. It's a beautiful day every day. And I watched the recording, but sadly couldn't attend week 1. Here I am for week 2, though. Thank you, Siphon. See you in week 3. That's the promise. Cool. So let's get into it then. The data types and functions. So I'm using this little chart here. We're going to first look at what we call data types or data within JavaScript. So we have a couple of ways we declare variables in JavaScript. There's like 3 different flavors of them. And when we're talking about declaring it, basically we're saying what information is going to be important in this application or how we're going to use this information, right? So there's 3 ways we do that. One is this let keyword. So the keyword, what I mean by keyword is here on the left-hand side. So let, and let's say viewers is 100. So we got about 80 people here. So that's a good prediction. Hopefully maybe we get 20 more so we can make this variable a true thing. But let viewers equals 100. So that's saying, okay, we are going to assign in memory or wherever, if you think about it, viewers is going to equal 100. And I'm going to talk about more about let and what's important there later on. But let is the first one there. And then const is another one. So const, we can also declare or write a variable. So this is like const greeting. And say, welcome to the second week. So everyone, welcome. Welcome to the second week of web development for beginners. And then we got this other one that you might have seen before, and it could be tricky, but it's var, V-A-R. And this is not for sports fans anywhere, video assistant replaying, but var as in JavaScript variables. So this is also, we can do a greeting, welcome to second week. So these are all 3 different ways to define variables. But obviously in programming, there's a reason why we have 3 different ways to do one thing, right? So let's look at the 3, why they're different. So let is something that actually can be changed. And what I mean by change here is, let's say, we want viewers to be 200 now. We want to, every time someone comes to this stream, we go up 1, like plus. This is what we do in JavaScript. So 101 now. Let allows us to do that. So it's a really great flexible way to declare your variables. Const, as the name, if you had guessed, const is search for a constant. So this actually cannot be changed. So in this case, const greeting, for example, maybe that's something that we want to keep because it's always going to be the second week until it's not the second week. So this is something, again, we want to include as a const variable. And I think when we look at some of the code later on, you'll see how that is kind of working. And I would like to say that const is probably one of the more used because as in programming, you want to have some control over your data and how that works. And the variables and values are there. So const is used quite often, I think, in most cases. But var, so we have var as well, and can it be changed? So similar to let, they can also be changed. But if we zoom out here and compare them, the other kind of differences is between how we can access or use these variables. So available after declaring, meaning after we write this, let viewers, then we can change it to viewers, 101. But we can't change it until we obviously define it. So that's what it means by declaring. It's actually writing it out in your code base. Const is the same way, variable after declaring. So we can change it. We can do anything like that. I mean, we could, print it or, alter it in any type of way after we actually have declared that variable. But what is kind of crazy about JavaScript, I would say, is that we also have this var where it's actually available before declaring. So you could do something, let's say here, var greeting, and we'll talk about some sort of string methods that we can do, but I can make this like all big letters before even declaring greeting. So something to consider when working with JavaScript. But I see Steve has a really good point here, which I like, right? So 3 ways to do the same thing. I'm in a Perl course, which I guess is a little poke at Perl courses. There is more than one way to do it, right? So that's kind of annoying. But if you look at it, there's actually good use cases for either of those things. So with let, we do a lot of this with loops and updating things. So if there's a variable that needs to get updated, like numbers, for example, let is a good way to use that. So the use cases are there and quite clear for when you would use let. Some people, there's debates on exactly when. Some people define everything as let. And then, hey, well, I can change it or not change it. But when you're building with complex code later on in your career as developers or your journey as developers, maybe having things that could change is kind of hard and hard to manage. So it's always good then to use const whenever you need to. So I would say when you see a lot of code examples lately, I'm looking at them. Const is used quite a lot because again, you're just using code snippets and stuff like that. But to make your life easier, if you're feeling like Steve and if you're kind of stressed out, what I say var is meant to do is you can use it in 1995. And that's not a slide on 1995, but if you're looking at a code base that has var in it, it is probably an older code base or older tutorial or older example. And it's very rare now while you're writing new JavaScript code to use var. These other ones were introduced in ECMAScript 6, which is basically an update to the JavaScript language. So let and const. So these are more popular to use. And throughout this in course, we're going to use let and const. So you won't be, hopefully, I don't want to eat my words and say I'm never going to use var, but I don't ever type var in my browser or my code editor lately. So that is defining these type of variables. But the other thing that we need to do is then obviously assign those things. So if anyone has any questions, feel free. There's one question here: is week 1 available? And that is on the link. I'm going to put that here while we switch over. And that's going to be all available on the link central that I kind of put together. Let me just drop that in the chat. There you go, Pratham. So now what do we do with these things? Let, const. We need to make variables out of them. So the next thing we're going to do is look at the different data types within the things that are available to us. So the first one is strings, and strings is, the word strings is probably I don't think anyone uses the word strings for words outside of programming, but strings is essentially that, right? They're things like welcome to the first week. We define them in these double quotes. We could do them in single quotes. We can even do them in these slash. I don't know what the technical term is for those things. But they all kind of operate in the same way, which is when we need to describe something. So if you're building like an application, for example, and you have like a product name, the product name is going to be a string. So strings are really popular, and we can do some really impressive things. Yeah, backticks is I don't know if that's the scientific term. Everyone's saying backticks. Okay, backticks it is. But I think there's even like a lot of backtick votes. If someone else has another name for them, let me know, because I think there's another name. Cool. So let's see. When we're defining the string, basically it's simple like this, right? Const greet, hello students, welcome to the second week. That's a string, easy enough to do, right? But how can we do some changes around this, or what can we do with the string if we want to change some things around it, or manipulate this, or assign it, or print it somewhere else? We can do a few things. So one of the things I find the most useful is actually replacing that. So if I do console.log and take the greet, so this established defined greet, I can replace that with something. So in this case, we have this second, comma second. So what that means is instead of having second here, we're going to replace that with second, the number. So if I look at the some code examples here, and what I'm doing is going to be showing you exactly what we set up in the week 1. So I'm going to use this code runner here. So you probably don't have this if you weren't at week 1 or you don't have it installed. But let's see if I could just go ahead and zoom in a little bit as well. So if you go ahead, and the first thing we'll do is console.log, replace the second. So I have, if I scroll down here, I have welcome to the second week. So I printed this console.log, pretty simple. And now I have replacing this string second. And if I want to go ahead and print this one more time, what do I have? I have console.log. Welcome to the second week. So replacing is a good thing, especially when you're working with um, dynamic text, and I'll even show you later on when we work with string templates exactly how we can make our strings way more flexible on what the inputs or what the values are. But this is one way to do it, right? So this is kind of like your simple Control F, find replace. You can do that with that within once you assign the variable and use this dot replace method. Cool. So yeah, inverted comma, I like that. Backtick still. And what could be also shown as a back quote. So I'm going to call it back quote just to say that, just to give some options for everybody. So back quotes, I'll talk about that later. It's super important. The next thing we can do is if we need to find a location of something. And in programming, if you're very new to that, that's always going to be called an index. So where something is in a value or in a variable, that specific mention or placement is the index of something. And we'll talk about that more when we talk about arrays, but that's using index. And I can do this by like saying, okay, I'm going to assign this variable students to a string called students. And then taking the index, I can say, okay, greet. So remember, we defined greet way at the beginning, and dot index of. So index of students. So let me know where students is in the greeting. That's what it's saying. That's what it's asking. And we're actually going to get a location of that. So the next line, which I just showed you, this greet index, that output looks like this. The index of the word student is in 6. So the 6th index of that, or the location of that within welcome hello or hello students, is where it actually begins. So another super useful method to do if you're trying to find information within, or let's say you're registering something or having a sign up and you need to find some data within what the user inputs are. Another nice way to do that. Some other ones I won't go too much in there. Is also console.log. You can do uppercase. I'll show you what that is. But I mean, that's classically just making everything uppercase. You can also do lowercase, which is nice. Again, if you need to do some like maybe validation. So it's really nice if you're like, okay, I need to validate that this is, an address, and I can make this all to uppercase so that when I do like maybe regex or using another validating tool, I can put it all in uppercase, and then I don't have to worry about the different cases or how the user put it in there. So another kind of way to make things clean. Or you just really need to make a good point and you want everything in uppercase. Cool. Does index of check case? So this is a good question, right? And if you look at this example, so I have students, const students, and if I go to the actual code, I think I have the same thing. So let's see. If I go into students, let's just test that. But instead, now I'm going to do lowercase s and try to get the index of that. So it's thinking here, or actually, where are we? Was that the new update? So you could see here, and I think that's the one I just printed. This is also locating still the students. So you can actually make some settings around that to understand that. But that is all within using index x. So even after I lowercase this, they can also find this within the index or the location there. And yeah, I think Terry is a good point. I mean, I'm saying location here, but I don't want to get into exactly like byte count and for the sake of this course. But it is where that information starts, at least for that. But yeah, there's way more when we're talking about data types and allocating data and bytes and stuff like that. But for the sake of this, we will keep it simple. But it's a great point, Harry. Cool. So uppercase is another one. Concatenating is super important. So bringing the strings together. So instead, I could take this concat hello plus, and then always if you want to put some spaces, this is kind of the way to do that. And then students, for example, and that's going to print out hello students instead. So concatenating is big as well when you can talk about different variables. So I have two kind of just basic strings here, hello and students. But if I want to add those, or let's say I'm taking a different variable in this case instead, so students plus, I can do like const concat equals students plus greet or something like that. Could also do something like that if you wanted to. But yeah, concatenating is another kind of programming word you never use other than within there. But within programming, but concatenating is just bringing those two things together. Could be very important when you're kind of combine things. Maybe you have different sources of information that you want to bring together that are in the position of strings. So another question, probably, how do we print variables? So I'm doing all of these things right here in this console.log. So that's how best way to print variables for very simple seeing if things work or how things work. Console.log. Cool. So the next one is finding this length of the string. So another thing, again, really important if we're doing kind of like making sure that someone, like say if if you sign up for a service and they say like, oh, the password is too short, for example, you are like, your name's too short or whatever, which is kind of the worst thing to do when you're filling out large forms. You can also do like console.log and .length. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about these backticks, as we all agreed is what they're called. But this is super powerful because we can do, this is basically called like being a string template. And we could do quite a lot of different things with this. So in this case, I'm actually doing this greet.length. And that will also show me the length, and not just if I assigned a variable to greet.length and then print it out. So that's saving a lot of time there. And thank you, I am not saving these. That's why. Cool. So that's one way. If I can go ahead, this console.log. We'll have it. Let's see. So length of the string is 43. Which is picked up by this one. And to the earlier point, I think we were talking about the index. So now, after I finally saved it, so one of the cool things you can do with index, if you want to make sure that something is not in that string, is do some validation on, okay, I have this index students, so the students, this case is not here, students. And now, okay, index is -1. So what that means is anytime that something's not there, the index is always going to be -1. And that's really great when you're doing checks on certain strings, because you can then say, we'll talk about this later, but like if, students is index of equals -1, then do, report message saying there are no students, for example. So that's one way to do that as well. Cool. Let's see some questions. When I'm doing console log, it's printing in the terminal, but for you, it's printing in the output section. That's a good point. So I'm using this code runner extension, which I really like because again, it kind of has this clean output, and also I can just click this play button every time. If you check out week 1, you'll see us install that, but that's why it's probably a little different on your side. Got it. So another thing that we can do. So you've probably seen this, maybe if you're very new to JavaScript, maybe not. But when we want to print out new lines, we had this like syntax of this like /n, and that means, oh, I want to have a new line, so that this like a line break essentially, for the new text that is available, or on the other side of that plus sign. With templates, we can actually do backtick, this story is, and then actually put a space in our code, which I think is much cleaner and much more readable, because you can get kind of crazy with new lines or line breaks. So that's what they do, the exactly same thing. So I have these two here. This story is n, very long, or this story is very long with the backticks using a template. So this is the outputs, both of them doing the same thing. But I would think you would have maybe agree, hopefully, that this is cleaner cleaner than anything there. Uh, cool. So next thing we could do with the templates is actually do checks on them. Actually work with them as variables. So we have this const viewer count, which is let's say 50 times 2. I'm not going to go into numbers later on. Then we have we can go ahead and print that and just say plus viewer count. So just take the variable. We can also put them in the backticks and then take that. So again, if we need to assign something, um, or actually bringing in this sort of new change this variable. This backtick makes it a lot more flexible. These will print the same thing, which I'll show you later on. But let's say instead we want to do something like check the viewer count as greater than 1. So let's say there's more than one person watching this. Then we use this question mark. So this is like a either or. So if it's greater than 1, great. If it's not great, right? So allowing us to do this templating kind of builds that in, and so we can do a lot more work. And I put this in the category strings. Obviously, viewer count is a number, but it allows us when we're printing these things as strings to use these templating there. So that's another good reason to use templating for the sorts of things there. Do you have to use the backticks for that to work? So I'm assuming you mean the new line. So let's say here, and I think Prettier is going to like ruin this for me. Let's say I got that. So one thing is like this line is getting read as like console.log, and there's like, where's the end of this? If I save this, I think Prettier might save this one. No. Okay, so it's not even gonna. Sometimes Prettier will like even move this up if it's like, oh, we know this is another string. But here, like this won't run. It's already like confused here. Let's see. So if I go here, console.log, this story is, where's the end of your string, sir? That's what's basically what it's asking me. Cool. Do I have mismatched quotes in the second example? Is the next question. Mismatched quotes. I don't. Not. Oh no. Oh yeah, I have this. That's really weird. Yeah, this quote is So I do have. This is probably bad practice, but I could do this. I don't even know. I don't think I even need this string here. But yeah, the quotes was kind of mismatched on that, but not a problem in JavaScript at times because JavaScript is super flexible that way. Cool. Love all the chats. Love all the calling me out as well. Because I need all the help I can get sometimes working with JavaScript. So the next one is numbers. So numbers naturally is 5, 6. What's unique to JavaScript that maybe if you come from other programming languages, 6.5, 0.5, these are all still treated as numbers. They don't have their own variable type, at least in vanilla JavaScript. So good thing to know. And we could do all of the number things as well, which is like we can add numbers, we can multiply numbers, we could see if the numbers are equivalent. So in this case, is 45 equal to 45.0? Let me know in the chat what that one will return. Is it the same? Who knows? Let me know. We can do 3. We can do exponents. 3 to the squared, basically 3 to the second power, 3 to the third power, all using this kind of syntax as star star. And I'm going to leave this one up for people to see who's the real JavaScript pros here. So 8, I don't want to say percentage here, but 8% 3, like what is this going to do? What's this going to give me? So I got some answers, 2. So yeah, exactly. What this does is the answer is right too, but it's actually giving me what we call like the remainder, right? So thank you, Crystal, you've got it. What I was really looking for, but I'm glad everyone got the correct answers as well. So it gives you the remainder, and it's actually odd because there's a lot of maybe even like coding coding puzzles that remainders are used quite often for those sorts of things. So good to know. This is like pretty useful um, for many different purposes you wouldn't realize until you get building. So numbers, again, kind of a sign. I think I showed you this before, but kind of uh, also declared very similar to strings. Viewers, give me the number that you want there. I love all the problems giving me like the real the mathematical formula. Did the long math. I appreciate that. Cool. And then we can do something like this, right? Const viewers equals 10. Console.log viewers plus plus. We could do something like that, right? Right? I'm gonna see because you guys have been really good at finding my mistakes in the code. So I'm gonna see, does this work? I know Steve. Steve knows. Will this work? Viewers plus, if we want to add this. So this viewers plus plus, just to give you an idea. Anytime we want to like increase something by one, so just up one. So let's say it's 10. Oh, we want this to be 11. Will this work? Let's see. So we got split audience. Kevin says yes. Maya says no. I like that we have some diversity in answers. It shows that everyone's coming from different backgrounds. So where are we? Let's go to our number side. So numbers. So I have this const viewers 10, and then I have console.log viewers 10. So if I go ahead and run this, let's see. And I don't need to save that, I don't think. So I get this type error, which is sort of annoying, but let's see. It's pointing to viewers plus plus. So let's say if we had this const viewers, so some people are going in the chat. Let's say, should we change it with const? Let's say if we change it to let, right? See if that does anything. And save it. I should get some autosave going on here so I don't have to do that every time. So that actually, no error there. So we still have viewers. So in this case, didn't change anything at the moment. But if we were to do this, let's say in a loop, for example, and we did this like, we do a lot of this stuff was like let I equals 0. And then we could do like I plus plus or something like that. We can also do that. And that would also increment the 1. So we have Shauna Smith, let's see, plus equals 1. So you're saying we should do plus equals 1. I'm not sure. Is that going to work? Interesting. So some good answers. But yeah, having a constant for something like that is not the best use case. Normally we do things like let, so we keep that saving and that changes in there. So that's one example where maybe let will be a better use case for you. Now, this is a weird one to show people about numbers, but you can convert these into strings. So we have like, I had this number, this was students. I could convert it to a string. That's really important as well when you are doing some things that maybe require them to, like, say, string validation, string verification, something like this. You can then convert it into a string. And that's important maybe if you're also like, let's say, sending it to an API and you want to have some data out there, maybe in the request, and it doesn't accept numbers as a field. So especially like when we're talking about different endpoints and stuff like that, you might actually have to use this like toString. So converting it to a string to actually get that to work. So just know that that's always going to be available to you. So the next data like type that we want to talk about is objects. And I think this is probably one of the most important data types within JavaScript because I use it very often. So I have this const pizza. So what you can think about objects is that they all have different properties. So in const pizza equals, let's say, which is the type of pizza. So the name, so banana pineapple. So this is everyone who's joining us in Sweden. Banana pineapple or pineapple curry is a popular pizza. Let me know if you've eaten that in the chat. I don't think many people have, other than anyone joining from Sweden. But slices, let's say there's 6 slices, so 6 pieces, and is veg false. So the false is actually we're going to assign this to sort of a Boolean type now. But this is actually, so now we're saying pizza has all of these different property types. And if we want to access that, let's say we just want to know all of the pizza name. And this is really a good way to access that easier by using this kind of dot. And let's say I just want to know the name. I can also do that. If I just want to know, let's say, the slices, I could also print that out. But a good way to sort of access those things. So yeah, Christina's got Sweden proud pineapple curry pizza. And Siphon says, sounds interesting. Most people say no, it doesn't sound interesting. Cool. And to Shauna's point, so the plus, so in a loop, right? So this going back, we have I plus and we can do this in a loop, but this I plus equals 1, we can also, for this case, when we're not using it in a loop, increasing by 1. So I think Shauna gets all of the points for answering that question. Thank you, Shauna. Cool. So, and then let's say we want to actually add something to this object. We can do that by now using if is this pizza good or not. Super important when ordering pizza, of course. So I have this pizza.isGood, and basically what that will do equals to true. I can go in, and now this will, if I print this object, which I'll show you in the code later on, is also showing then, we'll also add is good into that object. So let me just show you what that looks like now. So I have this const pizza. And let's see if okay, perfect. So the first thing I have, like I just showed you, I can print that name. So this pizza.name, banana pineapple. But then now let's say I want to do this is good equals to true. And there's another way I can add things. You might have seen this syntax as well. So let's say there's some allergies. So let's say you're the sad person that has this sort of pineapple allergy and can't enjoy this pizza, which is a shame. Then we can also add that. So this syntax does the same thing. So if I print this object now, which is pizza, you can see I have now is good true and allergies is pineapple, which is now again making the object a little bit more flexible. There was a question I see Michael asking me about the comma. Yes, and to your point, Prettier is adding that by default. So this is something that you can do this in your settings. I haven't done this in this VS Code setup, but if you don't need this comma, it's not necessary. But Prettier really likes every time I save it, it's going to come up again. So if you have Prettier installed, you're probably experiencing that. And the same with these semicolons. This is another highly debated topic in JavaScript. Do I need it or not? Not really, but again, Prettier has this opinion. So that's the value of using Prettier. Cool. So another thing we could do, and I'm going to actually cover this way more in depth in the function side section, but we can basically assign or create these objects within a function. So if you've never seen a function before, I won't go into too much detail until we get to the function side, but this is taking parameters, name, slice is veg, assigning them. So this .name is referring to this function. That's what this is in this case. And then we're going to assign them to name, slices, and is veg. And then if I wanted to, I can go ahead and let's say kebab pizza, another very Stockholm, very Swedish delicacy here, is kebab pizza equals new pizza. So I'm going to make a new kind of instance of this. For example, kebab 8 slices and is veg is false. So that's another kind of way to do and cover those things. Cool. Kevin asks, can we go over dot map? So I'm gonna promise to do that in the third week. So next week, on all some other like dot map, dot filter, things like that. But since we need to go over arrays and functions, I'm gonna cover that now. But this is a really great question, and I'm gonna like start with that, Kevin, next time. So arrays, const, pizza. So arrays, I like to think of as a list of things. So they don't have necessarily properties like you do in objects. So name, slices, but they are ways that we can list certain things that we might need to access or print or manipulate or change later on. So I have this pizzas, the kebab, banana curry, Hawaiian. So these are like the top 3 pizzas in Sweden. I think that's not science. And let's say I want to actually make a new pizza. So I can do this assignment, this variable new pizza, and I can do this dot push. So dot push is going to add something to that array. And this in this case, we're going to make pepperoni as a pizza. So some would say a more classic pizza type. And that's going to, again, now if I want to print const pizza, so look at it, pepperoni should be at the end. And I'm going to look at that code later on. Another thing which is super useful for working with any types as well is this type of. So knowing the actual type, the data type that you're having is going to be important when you do all of the things that we just showed earlier, like dot uppercase. So you can't do dot uppercase, two uppercase on a number. So you'll get errors. So one way to check that, and we can talk about TypeScript in a whole nother section, but one way to do it in vanilla JavaScript at least is this type of. So I have one last quiz for the audience. This type of, this is an array. So in theory, so if I do type of string on a string, it's going to give me string. If I do type of number, it's going to be number. What will this on array? So dot pizzas, sorry, pizzas is an array. What is this going to return? This is for all the rest of the points for this evening. I think we've got a few points to give out already. But let me know. This is kind of one of the strange things about JavaScript, if you will. Array. Oh, sorry. Array? Yeah, it should, right? It's an array. But that would be the easy answer, Kevin, and I'm not going for easy answers. Yes. So we got a couple. So objects, yes. Crazy town, you're not crazy. This is a crazy town. It is object. So this is actually going to return object. So that's something good to know when we're talking about how we work with arrays, and especially when you're checking the type. This is going to return object. So if you're like doing this check maybe on in the future, it's going to maybe throw you if you don't know that also these arrays are objects in the world of JavaScript. And of course, the other things that we want to do, let's say we want to remove things, we can do that. We have some easy access ones, I would say. So this dot pop. So this is going to take the last object, so the last entry, the last piece of data, if you will, last item in the array. Within that, it will pop it off like that, pop off, and that shift will take the first item in that array and remove it. We can also do splice. So it's basically saying where should we start and where should we stop, 1, 1. So the first entry in this case. So that's also another way to do that. So let me just show you the code for some of those things that we did. So I'll go ahead and push this play button and walk you through. So we have the pizzas, like I said, we can print this. That's going to give us the pizza list that we've made. Then we can also do dot push pepperoni, as mentioned. Now we can also say, no, we have this pepperoni pizza on our list, so we're expanding. And we can say console.log, or sorry, type of, which is taking now, like I proven earlier, the object of that, And then we can do, let's say, we can do .pop, .shift on these pizzas. And then we can also do splice. So this again, taking the, like, I'm going to change this. I don't like how I wrote object. I was thinking about something else, but so let's say the exact item. So this is going to start and up to that location essentially, to basically say, okay, I want to remove this. So now if we go to our sad menu, we only have one survivor, which is banana curry. So this is all good ways to sort of access and alter the arrays when needed, and especially when managing these sorts of things. So so that is the numbers, so different data type. We had strings, numbers, objects, and arrays. So how do we kind of put all these together is within functions. And where's my function? There you are. So we're running out a bit out of time here, but I'm going to cover functions quickly. And we'll go into way more in depth throughout the entire course, but also next week. So this is kind of the basics, the simple function syntax. So we have a function. We can name that function. Let's say greet the students. Then we have this thing, a parameter. So we're going to take in a greeting. And then we can do anything we want with this greeting. We could change it up, uppercase, whatever. Because whenever we call this function later on, whatever we goes in this, or this parameter value, is what we're going to do in the function later on. So function greet students. In this case, we do something very simple. We're just going to say we're going to show the greeting. So return console.log greeting. Then we do greet the students. So now we're going to in place of the greeting itself, give it this a string to pass through the function. So pass me through the logic that basically is going on here in the function, or what the function wants me to do. And if all is well, this should print out the greeting. That's what we're kind of saying in the function. So you normally see a lot of functions. You can function, some name, do some parameters. You can have more than one here. I just have one. And then do something. In the function, we can also define variables within the function that will be scoped in that function, and we can then alter those things or change those things as how we want them. But then ultimately, and what happens a lot of times is you might write a function and then you forget that you haven't returned something and that you want to use it later on. Returning something is kind of a common thing that you might forget later on. So always return something if needed. I will talk about when you don't return something and you just do it using a function there. But that's one way to write functions. I already showed you this one example, again, using an object. But again, that's another use case for functions. Then we can also, let's say we have this function pizza adder. And I want to say with functions, it's super important to make your code readable, and making your functions do what they say they're going to do and describe them as such is also very important. So instead of just having, function, my function, for example, you see like that in examples of JavaScript code. Let's actually call this function what it does. So this in this case, we want to, this case is going to like add the pizza, or essentially replace the pizza. Mary said pizza replacer. So basically what it's saying now is pizza at location 0. So in case the first location in an array, first item, equals kebab. And then I'm going to go in, I'm going to do this thing called like, okay, I'm going to make an array, pizza's banana curry. Now I'm going to print this out first. So meaning I'm going to go ahead and say, right, pizza's 0. And that should print out banana curry, because that's what we have later assigned to it. This is the first element, first item in that array. But if I want to say now I'm going to add this pizza or replace this pizza, now this should be pizza replacer. Then pizza adder pizzas, and then let's see what happens. Let's see what I'm going to give the chat an opportunity. This is truly the last quiz. What will this print out? Will it print out banana curry? Will it print out error? Will it print out kebab? Let me know. So let me know. What will this print out? And while we wait, I'm going to go ahead and show you the last example of this is another function, what we call an anonymous function. So instead of like naming it something, so you see here, I have function pizza adder. You don't have to name a function. You can do basically, let's say, a const double viewers equals function. So this is a function, anonymous function, passing through viewers, and we're going to return. We're going to basically multiply viewers every time. So now, if I want to say, okay, const viewer count, so this is a new variable, equals double viewer. So calling the function, and what we're going to pass through it is viewers, but in this case 50. So that's another way we can make define functions. In this case, again, making it a little bit more streamlined. I'm going to cover arrow functions. So if you've already done some JavaScript coding, you probably know that's another way we can define functions. But I like to give people an introduction to using this syntax, function, naming the function. You see a lot of people still use this, and there's no right or wrong way. Basically, you can have arrow functions that can, basically do a lot of this stuff in line and make our code a lot more streamlined. But this is a perfectly good way to do it, either through name functions or anonymous functions. So let's see. Sorry, Kevin, I missed your question. So does a function pass arguments by value or by reference? And Steve, thank you for monitoring the chat for me. So yeah, it's by value. So what are we looking at? So we got a couple answers. We got all three answers actually. So we got kebab, error, and banana curry. And then Kevin guesses banana curry. Be more confident, Kevin. You got this. So let's see. Let's go to the code. Where are we at? Functions. So I've got all the functions I showed earlier, and then this is the function of question. So again, function pizza adder. Let's call this for pizza replacer, huh? This already kind of gives you an idea of what's going to happen here. Oh, pizza replacer. Let me save that. Let me run that. So if I look the first time, right, banana curry, you've got that. So that's the first printing. So we're going to say, oh, print pizzas, the first element or the first item in that array. And then pizza replacer. So now we're going to run this function. We're going to call that function. And what that does, it says, oh, actually the first item should be kebab instead. And console.log. And guess what we got? Kebab. So we got, I think Siphon was the only one. Only one right. Great job, Cypher. And I hope great learning experience for everyone else. So this is, again, another way we can kind of work with functions outside of the function itself, the variables outside, to alter and change them. Great. So I'm going to wrap it up here. If you have any other questions, I'm going to put in the link for all of the resources. But thanks everyone for joining. You could be anywhere else on the internet, but you've joined me for this session. I'm going to put that there. But let me know if you have any questions. But I appreciate everyone's time, and I love to see everyone kind of participating both in the chat and connecting as well. So if you want to connect with me, you can find me in those places. I'm always open. Ping me any questions, any feedback, things you want to see. Like Kevin mentioned .map, which I'll do next time. But yeah, this course is yours. So hopefully you're getting something out of it every time you watch every week. But thanks for joining us. Have a good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you're joining from. Thanks.